Hi guys, it's Jill, and I am here with Mac, who says peace. Today I am here to teach you guys how to start clicker training with positive reinforcement with your horse. Nobody likes horses that are cookie monsters or that mug you for treats or are rude or disrespectful. But the reason that a lot of horses are is because it's natural for them to forage and look for food. Most horses are never taught how to behave around food, so they do what's natural to them. And a lot of the time, we as horse people accidentally reinforce them for being all over us. So if his nose is in my space and I give him a treat, then he learns that he gets treats when his nose is in my space. This video is intended to teach you guys how to start clicker training, or even if you never use it ever again, how to teach your horse not to mug you for treats and be all up in your space. I see you. I do. So if you're not familiar with clicker training or why use it, I have a podcast up about that. You can look up Equine in Theory. I also have a blog post about it, so you can read that for thoroughness. And if you're not familiar with what positive reinforcement is, negative punishment, all of the quadrants of operant conditioning, I have a glossary page on my website also, so check that out. All of those links will be down in the description below. The reason that we use a clicker is because it not only tells the horse that what you did was right, but also that food is coming. This buys the trainer time to deliver the food. It's especially helpful when you're working on like moving or more complex behaviors, or when you're at a distance from the horse. So it improves your accuracy and clarity to the horse. Using a mechanical clicker first helps develop your timing. Then you can start using a mouth sound, like mine is a sound, which I will reward for. So the reward that I use instead of the expensive or high sugary treats are alfalfa pellets. Yeah, they're about that size, but they're also not super high in sugar like your regular treats you can like really overdo with the horse's gut health. So the alfalfa pellets are the equivalent of eating a flake of alfalfa or hay. Also, I'm simultaneously doing what we'll be doing in a minute with him, just because he's standing here like, hello, let's do something. Also, an alternative reinforcement is using scratches. Not all horses are huge fans of scratches, especially ones that have maybe dealt with ulcers, but a lot of horses really enjoy them. So it's just up to your horse's preference. It's important to remember that just because we think that it might be reinforcing doesn't mean it is. It's totally up to the individual to decide. The last thing to remember before we get into the actual tutorial how-to is to keep your hand out of the treat pouch until after you click. So you don't want to be preloading and hanging on to it, because it can be distracting for the horse, or it could accidentally override your other marker signal if the horse is paying more attention to that. Just as a good rule of thumb, click, then reach in. Not before. Don't do that. Don't touch that. In order to start with our lesson, we start in protected contact. I am outside the stall, Mac is inside the stall, and I have a stall guard here so he can reach me. You can also work over your paddock fence. The reason that we start in protected contact is because it keeps the horse safe from us and us safe from them. So if you have a particularly muggy horse or one that's prone to biting, you can just step out of reach, whereas if you're in with the horse, you have no way to move, and if things get dangerous or they get all over you, then you can't just step away and you might have to defend yourself, and we want to eliminate that from the situation. So we train the horse in protected contact first so that we're successful when we're in there with them. Another important part of using protected contact is that the horse is free to leave. If they get overwhelmed, what you're asking is too complicated, or they just need a plain brain break, they are free to leave. Beyond that, likely you're not the only source of food. In their stalls, they have access to hay or alfalfa, and they can go eat that. You're not the only food source. If you are, that can potentially create some food anxiety, and we want to avoid that at all costs. Working in a paddock, the horse is free to go graze, and this is really cool when you're working at liberty, because the horse can leave you if they choose, or they could stay. A lot of horses want to stay and work for the food because of some sciencey word called contra freeloading, but that's not what this video is about. So if your horse does take a break, just give them a minute. If they come back, continue on. If not, just take a break yourself. Go get some water, go get a snack, and then come back. Now we're gonna start with target training. You can hold up a bell boot, a Gatorade bottle, anything, preferably something your horse is familiar with and not afraid of. I use a buoy target, but I often don't start with this because it can resemble a whip a lot, and the horses might be afraid of it. So I would start with something arbitrary. It doesn't matter, a piece of trash. As long as they're not fearful of it, you're good. So the reason I start with target training instead of just charging the clicker by clicking and giving food, clicking and giving food, is because this helps the horse understand that his actions are related to the consequence, getting food. So him touching this is what's earning him a reward. If you remember at the beginning of the video, I said that the clicker tells the horse that was right and now you get food. So if you just sort of arbitrarily click, then you could accidentally be reinforcing other things. The last really important thing to remember before getting started is to feed away from your body. So if I'm standing here and I click, I don't want to feed right here because that tells the horse to come close to my body. I want to feed away. Now I'm going to show you guys with Mac, who is a very experienced little clicker pony, how to start target training. So the first thing you're going to do is present the target fairly close to their nose. Click when their nose touches it, remove the target from sight, and feed away from your body. So I'll do that again. Hold it where it's easily reachable. Click the moment his nose touches it, remove, feed. You'll notice with a clicker trained horse, he's not coming to me begging for food. So after I click, he knows he's getting food, but he's not coming into my space. You can also introduce a verbal cue with this, like a touch or a target. That also helps when you transfer to other things, like touch. Helps make it more transferable. You'll also notice that I'm keeping my hand out of the tree pouch until after I click. So after you've done a few sessions of targeting, and the horse is going straight to the target, they totally understand it. You can work from different sides, you can work from different heights and have the horse touch it. Touch. And then you can move on to manners, only after they have a really high rate of responding to targeting. So with manners, what you're gonna do is you're gonna stand next to the horse, and when their head is in the center of their body, you're gonna click and treat. So this helps horses that may be all in your space to learn to stay out of your space for treats. And the same principle applies here. If you feed in your space, then the horse is going to come looking for treats in your space. If you always feed out of your space, they have no reason to be in it. So you'll see he's keeping his head out of my space, and then we work from both sides. So he still knows to stay out of my bubble. Now, I haven't refined this as much as I would like with him. I don't really want him to turn his head away from me, but this is where we're at. How I fix that is clicking before he turns his head all the way away when it's just in the center of his body. Like that. He knows that this is full of food and he's staying out of it per his own responsibility. So again, with manners, start by standing next to the horse, and if they're really all over you, you can step away. If you're worried they're gonna bite, really step away and just wait until they get distracted and look the opposite direction. And while they're swinging their head, click when their head is in the center of their body, in between their shoulders, and be sure to practice from both sides, because sometimes that's a little confusing for the beginner bees. Now that I finished with Mac and showed you guys how to get started with all of this and what it looks like on a more polished version, now I'm going to show you guys what it looks like on a horse that has not really been introduced to clicker training. I've done a little bit with him, but it was pretty slow going at first, so I'll show you guys now. Ruler is actually Zoe's half-brother. They share a dad, and I'm going to show you guys what the beginning steps look like to each of those procedures. But first, something I should mention, when you finish with the session, something can happen called negative punishment. Negative punishment is defined as the removal of something desirable or pleasurable in order to decrease behavior. So when you leave a session, you're actually taking away the horse's ability to earn reward, have the access to those treats, and also the contra freeloading that I mentioned before, which is really enriching to a horse. They get to do something different. So have an end of session cue to let the horse know that you're done. My end of session cue is just leaving a pile of treats in the bowl or on the ground if we're outside. He's really investigating me. But anyway, this is Midnight Ruler. Really haven't done a whole lot with them, so he's really not familiar with the process. So most horses are naturally curious, so they're probably going to investigate the target anyway. Presenting the target. He touches it, he gets a click, I remove, and feed away. Doesn't quite understand yet that it predicts very good things. So the goal is to get him responding pretty rapidly. So ideally when I present the target, he goes straight to touch it. See, I'm putting it in his path, so when he swings his head back, he's likely to bump it. Not in a way that scares him, but it's there. So I'm challenging him a little bit, moving it a little further away. Good man! Yeah, you did it! Yeah. See, now he's like seeking it out. It's good. I love that. Okay, so I think he's got that down pretty well. I think he understands the click means food is coming, so now I'm gonna show you guys how I start manners with the horse. I have not done this with him yet. So he'll likely be in my space, and I just have to wait for him to move his head out of it and into the center of his body. A lot of horses, rulers, very polite by nature. A lot of horses will like hear the click and come searching for treats, especially after you've charged the clicker. So expect that, but don't feed them here. Still feed them away from your body. And you also don't have to wait on them to come back into your space. If they're hanging out right there, go ahead and click and give them another one. You want that to be a really good spot no matter where you are. Change sides. It's just so like, I don't want to offend. His head's in my space. Now I wait for him to move away. I'm pretty confident that he's not a biter. So the second he moves out, click and reinforce. And then I feed him where I reinforced him. So if I want him to learn to stay away from me for treats, I feed away from me. Duh. And then if you move away, you'll get one. Good man. You can also move your treat to the other side, but sometimes it's a good little test. And this is my cue for them to go into the manners position. It's just a shoulder away. His enthusiasm to take the treats is getting a little bit slower and slower. So I'm gonna leave a pile of treats in his bucket and call it a day. And we're on a mission. Now I'm going to take you guys out into the field with Zoe to show you guys what it looks like to do this at Liberty out in a field. Zoe is probably the best one at manners and probably also targeting. She's very good. So I want to show you guys what that looks like without protected contact. But I cannot stress enough that this is something you should only try if you have worked in protected contact and you are getting the manners lesson down every single time the horse is responding appropriately and you are confident that you're going to be safe. Because working with food, sometimes horses get overexcited and they're like, let's do this. And you don't want that to create a situation where you might have to punish them or where you have to do things you don't want to protect yourself. So this is also a fun hallmark of a clicker trained horse. They say, what are you doing? Let's do something together. Hi. And she greets me with little knickers. I love it. Good girl. So we'll show off her targeting a little bit. Touch. And you see how nicely she's waiting for the treat? Touch. We've been working more on moving targets. Touch. Now I'm going to show you guys her manners from both sides. Of course, now Rosie's going to come join us. Good girl. She's so smart. Rosie, leave the camera alone. Good. It's very subtle, and it used to be this big head away behavior, but now she just knows a little movement is all it takes. When I have her target, touch, she moves away because she knows, because she's smart. Oh, such a good girl. But anyway, guys, I think that about covers all the bases. If you would like to read more about this, I have a blog post and a podcast all about it, and you can find all of those links down in the description below. I highly recommend checking those out. All right, guys, I hope that helps, and happy training with your horses. Can you smile? Can you smile?